Dun 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 dun. We still need music.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of In the Zone with Cassidy Wood and Zach Gilleland. We are previewing week 4 of the West Virginia high school football season this week, along with Marshall at Bowling Green. WVU is hosting Towson, so we got a lot to talk about today.
I will say this. Remember last week I was talking about Kansas. I said don't sleep on Kansas. So you get a lot of good insight here. And I know this past Friday we were back in the studio for the first time in a couple of weeks. We were on the boat the last time around, and so it's nice to be in-house here and being back. And we saw some great action last Friday.
Yeah, definitely. And after last Friday night, we had to get in that car and drive all the way to South Bend. So that was very interesting. We did not sleep for a long time, but man, was it worth it. That was just such an incredible win. And I'm sure you probably will remember it forever, just like me. Yeah, definitely. But we'll get to college in a little bit. Right now we're going to kick it off with some of our high school games. We have a huge slate tomorrow night. We're really, really excited about it. And this week's game of the week is going to be Hurricane at Spring Valley, the two powerhouse squads, both still undefeated right now. Spring Valley obviously coming off of that bye. So Zach, what are you thinking about these teams?
I mean, this is the game of the week by far. I mean, you can't pick anything else. This is, I met up with both coaches yesterday. This is going to be the biggest test for definitely Hurricane here. Spring Valley, I know they're battle tested. Hurricane, they beat George Washington, and nobody really expected them. I'm sure most people thought they were going to win that game, but most people didn't think they were going to win 56-7. That was a brutal assault right there. But Spring Valley, I know they're a little dinged up. They're coming off of a bye week, so that's helpful. They've played really, really good opponents to start out the year. I know Portsmouth and Huntington, those are no slouches of teams. I am going to roll the dice here. I think I'm really liking Hurricane in this one.
Really?
Yeah,
Hurricane?
I'm gonna go with the hot team.
Interesting. Yeah, I will say coming off of a bye is always pretty difficult. The only hesitation I have with picking Hurricane is it is in Spring Valley. It is on that grass. So Hurricane, they have a very nice facility over there in Putnam County, but it is turf. So I don't know how often these guys are playing on grass. If Donnie Mays maybe worked him out a little bit in some grass, trying to get him prepared. I don't know. So I'm going to flip the script on you and go Spring Valley for my pick. I do think it'll be a close one, though. There's a reason both of these teams are still undefeated. They are the two powerhouse squads, so I expect a very good game.
It's funny. I was over at Spring Valley yesterday. That turf looks awful. Like it's week 4 right now, and there's already dirt there because they've had a million band competitions. I'm sure Spencer Adkins had something to do with that. Hurricane, I really think they're this year's Herbert Hoover, and so there was a lot of talk about a new head coach,
right?
Maybe some transfers and stuff going on over there. We know Hurricane does have some transfers over there. But the way they're destroying teams so far is really reminiscent to what went on in Hoover last year. So
I could agree.
I think Hurricane, they've got a lot of D1 talent on that team. I like Spring Valley a lot, and Coach Dingus, obviously there's a lot of respect on both sides with him and Donnie Mays. I don't know. I'm looking at the talent on that team. Mondrell Dean, Jeremiah Riffle. They've got a freshman quarterback in Villatombi. I think they're going to be a really good team.
I mean, obviously, we always talk about the bus on this show, Mondrell. It's very, very hard to stop that guy, but I do think, the front seven for Spring Valley is really strong. I mean, they've always developed really big linemen, hence, that pipeline to WVU with all those Spring Valley kids. The majority of them, work on the line. So, I don't know. Like I said, I think it'll be really interesting. I don't think anybody saw the Hurricane GW game that did happen last week. I mean, the fact that GW only scored 1 touchdown against them, I mean, that's just crazy. I don't think anybody could have predicted that. I don't think we predicted that.
No.
But I'm going to take Spring Valley. You're going Hurricane?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Cool deal. So, Zach, who do you have in this one?
Rowan has one of the top rushing offenses in the entire state. I was about to say country because I'm thinking college football, but they could at this point. Lewis County is a 3-1 team this year.
Yeah.
They're a really solid team, and I know it's a little different traveling up north, and those north teams are really good here. But I'm going to go with Rowan. I think they're actually Lewis County is 2-1, and the reason I said 3-1, Max Preps has their win against Elkins in there twice. So
Yes,
it's 3-1.
yes,
so I
yes,
just
yes.
quickly remembered that. I think Rowan County is going to win. I think they stay undefeated in this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be close too. I mean, Lewis's only loss came to Fairmont Senior, and obviously, that's a powerhouse. So, I think it's safe to say this one's going to be pretty close. I'm going to have to go with Rowan too. I agree. I think they're a gritty team. They're hard on the ground. They're very hard to stop. So I think they're and it does help too. I have a note on here. Rowan has 10 seniors, and I do think when a team is senior heavy like that, it gives them a lot of success. I mean, these are high school kids, so when a senior kid is going up against a sophomore, I mean, there's a lot of difference there. Kids do hit puberty at different ages and stuff, and so I really do think that when there is a senior heavy team like that, 10 seniors.
Rowan County is going to win because all their players have hit puberty.
Yes, that's the headline. Oh gosh, I hope I don't get in trouble for that. No, but I have Rowan County winning this one as well. Okay, moving on, Ravenswood at Wirt. The Red Devils lost last week to Williamstown. We predicted that they were going to lose, but I don't think we would have predicted a 62-0 shutout.
Yeah.
Really rough for the Red Devils. Obviously, Ravenswood is in a rebuilding year a little bit, struggling a little bit, and I'm pretty sure they're still looking for that first win. So, and then Wirt, on the other hand, is outscoring teams 181-14 so far in the past 3 games. So, yeah.
Yeah, it might be more than 62 points. In this one. Wirt County, don't know too much about them, but they've been dominant. Ravenswood on the other side, I mean, they looked good week 1, but the problem is that they've been running into some really good teams lately, and so I especially when it's at Wirt, it's going to be another long week for the Red Devils. I agree as well. I think Wirt walks away with a pretty favorable win in this one, adding to that 181-14 points. And then, okay, so we have Braxton at East Fairmont. Now, Braxton is looking like kind of a middle-tier team. They are 1-2, but their 2 losses came to solid programs in Lincoln and Lewis. We just talked a little bit about Lewis. So I think this one is going to be a little bit closer. East Fairmont's in the same boat. They're also 1-2, but... Yeah, and they lost to 3-0 North Marion and 3-0 Hedgesville. So I think they're both kind of middle-tier teams. I think they're pretty even. What are your thoughts on this one? I got to go with actually, no. I was jumping the gun for a second. I was going to pick East Fairmont. I don't know why I was about to say Braxton, but I mean, I think East Fairmont, especially the home team, I'm going to go with them on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with East Fairmont as well. Like I said, though, I think it's going to be a very close game. So this one should be really interesting, and we'll definitely have highlights of this one too. Actually, our sister station up north at BOI is going to get us highlights for this, so definitely tune in to the Friday Night Sports Zone tomorrow night.
We appreciate that.
Yes, to see those. Okay, South Harrison at Wahama. Wahama, so they have been in the headlines all year pretty much. They won the state title in softball. They were the runner-up in baseball. And football, it's been a minute. Their last state championship was in 2012. So maybe it's time. Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed for the White Falcons. South Harrison is 1-1. They lost to Doddridge in their home opener, then had a 16-7 win against Liberty. Wahama really hasn't been tested yet. All 3 of their wins came from teams that are still looking for their first win. So it's kind of hard, to gauge a team when they're going up against teams that haven't put up really any points yet. So kind of hard to gauge. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like you said, Wahama, they haven't played the toughest schedule yet, but credit to them, they've looked really good in every single game so far. Don't know too much about South Harrison up in the Clarksburg area, so not our team we religiously cover. But Wahama was a very consistent team last year, and they're bringing that over to this year. I'm staying with Wahama Mama in this one.
Yeah, me too. I think Wahama, wins it. Hopefully goes 4-0 and gets closer to that state tournament. I just think that'd be so cool if they pulled off a state tournament
They were
win.
also a state champion. They had a state champion in shot put too.
That's right.
They've been killing it over there near the Ohio.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm gonna pull up some highlights here. I have a feeling we skipped over Ravenswood again.
We did.
Oh goodness. Well, back to the Red Devils. Hey, you know what? We love them Red Devil highlights. And so, sorry. Oh. But yeah, so anyway, definitely think Ravenswood is struggling this year, as we said. But okay, moving on. Nitro at Chapmanville. Nitro coming off of a 20-point loss to Hoover, but the Huskies, they did hold the Huskies to just 2 touchdowns in that first half. I was at this game last week. It was our game of the week last week.
Yep.
And it was definitely very interesting in that first half. And it was cool to see all the Nitro alumni come out of the woodwork. We had Bryce Meyer, former quarterback Trevor Lowe, whose brother is the quarterback at Nitro now, Derek. So it was really cool seeing all the alumni come out for that game. It had a huge crowd. I mean, a ton of people were out there. And but Hoover ended up walking away with like a 20-plus point win in that second half. So definitely beat them down in the second half. Who do you have in this one?
Now, I will remind you, Cassidy, we do have video of this one.
Okay.
So, Chapmanville, they lost their first game at Winfield. They ran into just an absolute bulldozer. That's Caden Beam, and then the Generals' rushing attack. Nitro, we really said this was their first test, was against Herbert Hoover, and they looked fairly solid in the first half, but then Dane Hatfield and company, they really balled out in that second half. It's down in Chapmanville, and I think with Chapmanville, they've been looking good so far on offense. They beat Polka and Sissonville really good this year. They're not the best teams from what we've learned so far, and so Winfield was that first test, and it wasn't close.
Yeah.
But I think this one is a little closer, but I've got to go the edge with the hometown team. I think Chapmanville's going to win this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. So Nitro beat Polka by 1 point earlier, a couple weeks ago, and then Chapmanville beat them by 36 points. So I don't know, if Polka had some change in personnel, maybe some kids were injured that week. I'm not really sure. But when you see a team beat a team by 1 point and then another team beat the same team by 30 plus points, kind of gives you some insight into who's going to walk away with the win in that one. So yeah, I definitely think it'll be a tough test for Nitro. The fans do travel, so we'll see how many fans make it all the way down to the Chap. I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think Chapmanville is gonna win this one pretty fair and square. Okay, now moving on, Winfield and Wayne. I'm a little worried about the Wayne Pioneers in this one. So Winfield, obviously they lost to Hurricane in week 1, but since then they've posted 2 huge wins. I really think that they might have been a little bit shell-shocked in that home opener. It was in Winfield, but it was the Battle of Highway 34. A lot of people came out to that game. I think it was like 8,000 fans out at that game, and obviously that was the first game that Eddie Smolder was head coach. And so I think his kids, I think they are buying in and all of that. I think the offseason they've worked really hard, and I think it showed, in the first part of that game in week 1, or first half of that game in week 1, but obviously they ended up losing and then posted 2 big wins. So I think Winfield's finally kind of found their groove a little bit. I think, they've kind of believe in each other a little bit more. So I'm excited to see what this general team is going to do for the rest of the season. But what are your thoughts on this one?
I think that was just more of an indictment on how good Hurricane is to open up the year. I think Winfield is a very solid team. They have a phenomenal rushing attack, and Wayne, they've really struggled so far, and the last 2 weeks I know they had that tough loss against Scott, and then who did they lose to? They lost to Logan, and so those were tough teams they had to go up against, because Logan and Scott, they haven't lost so far this year. We'll get to them in a second, but they're looking solid. I think Winfield, when you look at their dynamic, and they've got a lot of different guys that can run the ball over there. Pearson, Caden Beam. So I don't think this one's going to be close. I really think Winfield runs away with it pretty early.
Yeah, I really don't think so either. And remember, we talked a lot about that fullback too in Winfield, and just how much of a
6'2", 230 pounds. It's
hard
insane.
to stop.
It's insane that not only can you get that big as a 17, 18-year-old, but not even be an offensive lineman, be a running back that gets the ball and can run fast. Talk about physical freaks. Andrell Dean being one of them. For me, that was 5'10", 130 pounds my senior year of high school. It's crazy to me how big these kids can get.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think it's going to be really hard for Wayne to stop that kid and stop really a lot of their starters over there in Winfield. So I do agree. I mean, Wayne will have the home crowd on their side, but I do think Winfield is going to win this one handsomely. Now, Wayne is on a 2-game losing streak. Their opponents have posted over 70 points in all against them. So, I think it's going to be an offensive grind or a defensive grind for Wayne. I think Winfield walks away with a big win in that one. Okay, Polka is traveling down to Logan County. They're visiting Logan. I've seen a lot of you kids going back and forth on social media on this one, so I'm hyped for this. I think it's going to bring out a very big crowd, especially Logan fans. I think will come out for this one because I think they're very excited at the potential they could beat Polka, especially after the basketball season and what happened there. So, who do you have in this one?
First off, I'd like to apologize. It's interesting that we have Winfield and Logan back-to-back because I was looking at the wrong roster last week, and I said the wrong names for Logan because I thought Aiden Slack was the cornerback. That's not the case. He was the wide receiver.
Yes.
And Jackson Kogar, another guy who's 6'4", 230 pounds, according to Max Preps, which again is absolute asinine to me that you can be that big and not only just have him that's a left tackle for Class A schools. Well, and this kid is playing quarterback. And when we saw the highlights against Wayne last week, he was slinging the ball too. They were mossing kids left and right. They looked really solid against Wayne, even though Wayne did score the first points of that game. But Logan buckled down from then. Polka. Oof.
I know. My dots.
And we're very unbiased over here. We loved covering them last year because they had a 6'4", 240-pound belldozer in
Toby Payne.
And he's doing pretty darn good for Marshall right now. But it was a fun team to cover because they were that blue collar, run it down your throats, grind it out type of mentality. And they lost a lot of guys last year. Independence, maybe the best team in AA. I'm pretty sure they lost to Fairmont Senior in the title game. I think most of us thought Independence was going to be. We thought Hoover Independence was going to be it from kind of the get-go. And it was an absolute slaughter against Polka, and that's not saying anything against Polka. That just kind of shows how good Independence is.
I will say I was at this game. It was 60-0 at halftime, and the poor kids. I was standing on the sideline on Polka's sideline, and the poor kids were like, "Can we just really prioritize their sports?" And
we love that. I'm going to stay with the hot team. I think they roll undefeated. Spoiler alert, we're looking ahead next week, Logan at Winfield. So that's a big test for both teams, especially in AA. I know Winfield, the Hurricane loss, whatever, that's AAA. This is a big one for AA.
No, I totally agree. Hint, hint, that might be our game of the week.
We haven't looked too far ahead, but that's looking good.
Yes, definitely. And getting back to Jackson Kogar, by the way, beast on the floor in basketball as well. I mean, he basically, helped lead Logan to the state title and, led them in the state tournament. He was one of their leading scorers, him and Garrett Williamson. So you guys still killing it. And I'm going to agree with you. Logan, I think it's not going to be close. And the fans are harsh down there, too. So thoughts and prayers with Polka traveling down there. Okay. Switching gears to Class AAA, South Charleston is hosting Cabell Midland. Now, South Charleston, so far, I'm pretty sure they've only scored one touchdown in the past 3 weeks. They're really, really, really struggling right now. I think we have some video for you guys of this. But Midland beat Capital last week in a 49-0 shutout. I think right now in Class AAA, especially in the MSAC, we have like 3 teams that are just so elite, and then the other 3 are just so struggling, and it's like polar opposites. But what do you think about this one?
I think Capital Midland needed to do what they did last week. Obviously, most people thought they were going to beat George Washington, but that was such a great game.
Yeah.
They went out and shut out Capital, and that's what Luke Salmon's team needed to do. They needed to get back on the right foot. They needed to be a dominant team, and they're going to do it again this week. I don't think anybody is picking South Charleston to win this game. I just think Capital Midland. I think it's going to be about the same as it was against Capital. I think it's around 49-0, 56-0. We'd like to see South Charleston more competitive, but it's been tough this year. So I think it's going to be around 49-56-0.
Yeah, and I agree too. And it gets back to just like we have like Huntington, Capital Midland, Spring Valley that are just those top tier programs, those top tier teams that are just beating people up, and then we have South Charleston, Capital, St. Albans that are kind of rebuilding, struggling a little bit. So when those top 3 play the bottom 3, it's going to be a little bit of a shootout. So I agree with you. I also want to make a note, this speaks to Salmon's head coaching, the fact that he was able to kind of not even replace Chandler Schmidt, but be able to move people around to make up for that big loss, because Chandler Schmidt, as you guys might remember, for the past 3 seasons, pretty much had the most rushing yards, the most rushing touchdowns, probably total touchdowns for the Knights for 3 years. So the fact that Salmon's was able to find missing pieces and kind of fill that void and still be beating teams 49-0 really speaks to them.
They're a machine.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll find their new guy every single year. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I have Capital Midland in that one as well. My Billies, the Man Hill Billies are traveling to Mingo. Now, this one's going to be really evenly matched, I think. So the Billies shut out Westside 41-0 last week. Mingo also beat Westside week 1 by 50. So both played the same teams.
Yep.
Score was relatively the same. And so I think this one is going to be a close one. What do you think?
I think I'm going to go with, this has been a really tough. It's kind of tough to judge. So one of our cameras just died.
Yeah, I know. One of our cameras died, guys. Hang on. I'm going to try.
So I'll move over and then I'll buy some time.
Here, I'll move the camera.
Okay. Just zoom it out a little bit.
See, this is what happens when we have a 2-person operation.
Yes. But so I'll just start spitballing here. I think it was just kind of it's kind of tough right now to judge. Hello, everyone. It's kind of hard to judge how good Mingo Central is right now because they had a bye earlier in the season. They got blown out by Point Pleasant earlier this year, and then in return blew out Westside. And man, kind of in a similar situation where they beat Westside pretty good. They have 1 loss, and then I believe they beat Mountain View as well. I'm not 100% sure. So it's kind of tricky to judge teams right now when they already are coming off their open week. And this is a rivalry game. It's down in Mingo, and they have a gorgeous facility down there. We're about to set up our second camera in just a second here. Cassie, you're going to be happy with me. I am going to go with your Billies. I think they're going to win this one.
I think it'll be a really good game, though.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys, I think we're back in action. Sorry.
We're about to.
Again, this is what we love, right? We love being authentic on this show.
Yeah, this is 100% real.
When it's a 2-person operation trying to do all this,
but as you were walking away,
yes.
I was making the point
hyping up my Billies.
Yeah, well, kind of different. I was saying how Mingo Central is kind of hard to judge them right now because so they beat Westside. They beat them really good. That was on the road. I believe it was 55-6 or something like that. In return, they got beat up pretty bad by a good Point Pleasant team. And so I think this kind of will show how good they are because
me too.
Man had a dominant win over Westside. So did Mingo. So this is going to be a good barometer for both teams because I think both teams have beaten up on some lesser competition.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And you're going with Man, though?
I'm going with Man.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you on this one. Also because those Billies fans travel, and I know for a game like this, all y'all are going to be out in Mingo, and so that's what I'm excited to see. I think it will be close. All right, and now...
It's Man and Mate one.
Now, Capital at St. Albans. All I have on my note here is this is going to be a long slugfest. What do you think?
I will not say who told me this, but somebody I was talking...
insider information.
Yeah, somebody I was talking to, I was talking about that game to them, and he said, quote, someone's going to have to score. I don't think, has Capital scored a point yet all year? Because they have played a murderous schedule. They've played,
they've been
pretty sure they played both Parkersburg teams to start out the year, and then they just got shut out by Cabell Midland.
Nope.
No, they have not.
They have not scored a point to everybody.
This one's in St.
They
Albans,
lost
right?
to Park South 59-0, Hurricane 48-0, Midland 49-0.
Yeah. And I think it was Metro News that has been doing their rankings. They put, so obviously Martinsburg, the team in AAA.
Yes.
Nobody disputes that. They really like the Parkersburg teams this year. They have Huntington. Like, I know Huntington lost to Spring Valley. They've got Huntington at like 17th or 18th in their rankings. They don't like them for whatever reason.
Interesting.
So I don't know who's voting on that, whatever, but I think there's some disrespect to Huntington, but Huntington's a really good team. Laco, Wayne Harris, and a couple of other guys, but we'll get to them in a second. But the task at hand, I think Capital wins this one. St. Albans, we were talking about the number situation, and they got blown out by Riverside. Yeah. And I mean, credit to Riverside, they had a great game plan. They were able to get their first win in Quincy. I don't know, like this could go either way, and I know St. Albans has had the capability of upsetting some teams in the past, but I really think Capital gets their first points and the first win of the year.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I just keep going back to the fact that, you know, some of these kids have literally never played football before that are on the St. Albans roster. And, you know, with Capital, I really think, you know, they have been struggling since Coach Karp left, but I think that they are trying to build something over there. And, you know, Capital historically has had a pretty solid football program, historically. Yeah. And actually, shout out local Capital High grad Kerryon Martin got his first collegiate sack against Notre Dame on Saturday. So shout out to Kerryon. But yeah, I'm going to go with Capital too. Again, it's going to be a slugfest, like you said. Yeah. Someone's going to have to score, and I think that pretty much sums up this game, all in all. Someone will have to score. Do we actually have highlights of this one?
We do.
We do. Highlights there we go. Yeah, so this is when they played Riverside. They're 1-3 and has not come close to the teams like in their losses. Their closest loss was by 14 points. Ripley, on the other hand, you know, got their first win last week against Lincoln County. Lincoln County has been struggling a little bit, you know, hasn't had a winning season in a little bit. So who do you have in this one?
You know, I think Ripley goes 2-2.
You think?
I think they get their second straight win. And we don't know much about Marietta. We don't know the teams they faced.
Right.
Ironically enough, their only win so far is against Joe Burrow's high school, Athens. It was a 12-7 win. And so I know Athens has been struggling a little bit.
Ever since Joe left.
Well, I mean, when you have a Heisman Trophy quarterback and the number 1 overall pick, you're probably not going to replicate that kind of success. But like, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I know nothing about Marietta. We don't get up there. Yeah. It's out of our market. Ripley, this could be really good for Ripley, especially if they get that
momentum-wise,
2 consecutive wins, that builds. And going back to Hurricane, I was asking Lucas Ripito, their senior linebacker, and I'm like, what's the vibe like? What's the vibe like in the locker room? And he was going on about how the vibe's really good, especially now that they're winning. And when you win, it creates a better atmosphere, and like it's easy to sulk when you're losing. But these kids, they can, if they win this game, it's 2-2, and they'll have more wins than last year.
Yeah, definitely. I think it helps with the momentum, obviously, and we'll get fans rallying behind the Ripley Vikings, who again have the most beautiful field I've ever seen. All right, so Sissonville traveling to Clay. Now the Ville is still looking for their first win. They lost to Scott last week by 47. Scott, though, is undefeated. We'll get to them more in a second here. Scott, you just don't want to mess with those Skyhawks right now. Clay dropped last week to Roan 36-20, as we talked about. We thought that would be a little bit closer, but Roan walked away with a 16-point win. So who do you have in this one?
You know, we've been picking kind of the same things. I think we were a little bit different in, you picked Braxton over East Fairmont.
Yeah.
Did you pick Ripley in the last one?
Yes, yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with the home team.
So we've been kind of the same when it comes to our picks, and I know there are going to be two that we disagree on. Not this one. I'm going Clay.
Yeah.
Clay, they ran into a really good Roan team last week, and they did put up 21 points against them. Sissonville has not looked good at all. To their credit, they've had to play the Boone and Logan teams.
Yeah.
And those are good teams. They're trying to build something over there. They do have some offensive talent. It's just they've been running into some really solid teams. I think Clay, more of a defensive team. I think Sissonville might struggle to score points here. I think Clay wins this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, we love the quarterback Ethan Taylor, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we love him, and I know him and his brother are putting the Ville on their back, so to speak. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Clay on this one. Unfortunately, I think Sissonville drops to 0-4. But like we said, they've had a really hard schedule so far. Let me look real quick and see who they're going to be playing up next. But like in their next ones, do we have some highlights of this one?
We do.
Nice. Love when we got the video.
Yeah, look at that, a fumble recovery. And they're going to take it back into Chapmanville territory, and they would score on the very next play.
See, guys, you get play-by-play live here in the zone.
I used to do it in college.
Okay, so I take that back. I thought the Ville would have an easier schedule coming on the other side of Clay County. No, they play at Hoover. They host Polka. That Polka game, they should be able to put up some points in that one. And then they go to, they have Winfield. Wayne should be a little okay, but then Nitro and then West Side, who we did say West Side is struggling.
Yeah, this is gonna be a tough season for Sissonville. Like they can pull out, I think they can pull out at least 2 or 3 wins.
I was gonna say
throughout the rest
I
of
would
that.
give them probably 3 wins this season.
It's kind of a long shot for the playoffs at this point, but a win at Clay would really go a long way.
I mean, it would. It definitely would. I just, it's going to be really difficult. They're going to have to really be on it to go into Clay County and beat the Panthers. But, okay, so Oak Hill at Lincoln County. Now, Oak Hill lost to Princeton by a field goal. Lincoln County lost to Princeton 53-8.
Yikes.
Lincoln County is struggling this season, and I remember they were struggling last season too. I don't think they have the numbers right now. I think that's part of the problem. They don't really have any depth. Not a lot of kids down there are coming out to play football anymore.
For them, they're in Lincoln County, West Hamlin. Hamlin's not a very big area, and so they have to go up against a Princeton of the world. And Princeton, they've got the numbers as compared to, and so Lincoln County's got to play a lot of these bigger schools because they're kind of a hybrid 2A, 3A in some different sports. Oak Hill, they're 1-2. You look at their win against Nicholas County. I think they went 17-7. Nicholas County just scored 71 on a team this past week. And so that team, I forget who that team was, but clearly they're not very good.
Yeah.
If they're losing by 64 points at that point. But when you're an Oak Hill team that only won 3 games last year, you hold a team to 7 points, and then that team scores 71. Like, you're doing something good here. And so Oak Hill, they've got, they beat Wyoming East. Yeah,
East.
Wyoming East they're not good, period, and I'm sorry to say that. But Oak Hill, they have good losses. They lost to Princeton, you said. That's a really good team. I don't remember their other loss, but I'm gonna go with the Red Devils. I think they get it done.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think Lincoln County, like I said, I mean, they've just been struggling for a while. I think they just don't really have the numbers, and they don't have, when a guy goes down, they don't really have anyone that they can put in there. So I think Oak Hill walks away with the win. Okay, Huntington at George Washington. G-Dub, as we mentioned, got embarrassed last week by Hurricane, managing just one touchdown. I can't believe that happened, honestly. Like, I really can't. With the talent they have up at G-Dub, I get it as Hurricane, but to walk away with almost 50 points, a 50-point win, that's just
crazy.
So crazy. So that being said, I think Coach Steve Edwards, I think Abe Fenwick and Giacomo and everybody is just upset right now. I would be. I mean, to play Hurricane and get beat like that, I mean, those are emotions that I believe would carry over into the next week, 100%, chip on their shoulder. I think this one's going to be a very good game. Now, Huntington was the favorite to win it all this season in the preseason polls. Since then, it's obviously changed. But they lost by 1 point to Spring Valley. Spring Valley, as we talked about, is a very good team. I think it's going to be close, but I do think Huntington's going to win.
Okay, because this is the one I was wondering if we were going to separate ways in.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Huntington, too.
Yeah.
George Washington played them pretty tough last year in Huntington, especially in the playoff game. I was there for that one.
Yeah.
Abe Fenwick's got a lot of talent. They've got that left tackle that's going to go to Virginia Tech, so they've got some good players on that team. They just ran into a really good Hurricane team, and from what I heard is because I was at Winfield for their first half against Chapmanville, and I was able to get to Hurricane by the second half. And by that point, it was kind of out of reach. And from what I've heard is that George Washington looked pretty good in their first drive, scored a touchdown, and then it just kind of unraveled from there. And they made some mistakes here and there and didn't play really good football. By the time the second half hit, they looked like out of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying they gave up, but it kind of looked. It was kind of a tough finish for them there. But on the flip side, I think Huntington is a really good, really solid team. I think they're a very talented team. They've got a couple of D1 players. Dwayne Harris, he's a younger guy.
We love Dwayne.
D1, Gavin Lacco, Dayton commit, Robbie Martin, their offensive lineman has got some offers. So they have some studs on their team. And for them to lose at Spring Valley, it's a tough game. Those teams can go either way just because of how talented they are. And so they beat South Charleston. They had the bye. This is their first big test since Spring Valley. And I think Huntington wins, and I think it'll be 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, kind of adding to our game of the week this week, Hurricane and Spring Valley. It's interesting that Hurricane put such a beat down on George Washington, but then, and Huntington and Spring Valley was obviously pretty close. So I love when all 4 of these teams play each other, and then you get to kind of see what happens, because obviously some players, might fall and be injured and stuff, but I just think, I think it's really interesting that Hurricane beat George Washington so bad. Spring Valley beat Huntington by 1. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in these 2 games and if it kind of fits the script. And then last but certainly not least, Scott Skyhawks traveling to Point Pleasant. Now, Scott is entering this one 3-0, but hasn't really been tested yet. They played Hoover, Wayne, and Sissonville. Now, you've heard what we've talked about with all 3 of those programs leading up to this point. Hoover is struggling this season a little bit. Wayne and Sissonville are very much struggling. So they haven't really been tested yet. I think this is going to be their big test, but who do you have in this one?
I think this is the one where we go our separate ways. I've got Point Pleasant.
Really?
Yes. Point Pleasant's only loss so far was to Galley Academy. That's their big rivalry game across the border in Gallipolis. That was 22-21. Galley Academy has not lost, and they've looked dominant in their wins. Especially, this is a very long drive for the Skyhawks to go. And so I really think I think Point Pleasant gets the win here. I think it'll be a good game. I'll be at that one, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go with the Black Knights. I really think they get the job done.
Yeah, I'm going to flip the script on you here. I'm going Scott.
We're throwing money down. What's the money line? Was it like plus 3.5 Point Pleasant?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say, well, obviously I'm going with Scott, so I would say Scott probably -3. But yeah, I don't know. Scott, like we were saying, Jaden Sharp's that running back. He's very strong. I think he's gonna, come out and do really well. And yeah, I'm going Scott. I also just love my Skyhawks, so I'm unbiased here, right, guys? Unbiased here.
He was just a little kid a few years ago.
Amanda Barron, ladies and gentlemen, yelling that Jaden Sharps is too little to be playing high school football.
Still a kid. Still a kid in my mind.
There you go. He's still a little kid in her mind. Yeah, so that about wraps up our slate for tomorrow night for high school football. Of course, tune in tomorrow night at about 11:10. We'll have all your tri-state area highlights. And yeah, we have a lot of good games tomorrow night.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Looking forward to it. I think this will be a really good slate.
Yeah, I think so too. Now switching gears a little bit, let's talk some Marshall football because I don't know if you guys know, but these guys are playing some ball right now. They are like in the national spotlight. I went to Huff's press conference on Tuesday after that Notre Dame win, and it was a packed press conference. We had Sports Illustrated guys there, Associated Press reporters there. Everybody's just riding high on the herd right now, and rightly so. I mean, everybody's super excited about it. Huff really went out this offseason, got all of these transfers, brought them in, filled the missing pieces with them, and it's showing. I mean, it's showing. And it's kind of tough for them going from a crowd of 80,000, almost 80,000 people. I think it was like 77,000 fans at that game. Just high stakes, and then kind of switching gears now, playing a Bowling Green team that is 0-2 in the action. Maybe a couple thousand fans will be there. And so, in talking to the players, they said that the preparation is key, just staying consistent, focusing on why they're playing, why they're working so hard, and it's for each other, right? Like not for the 80,000 fans or being on ESPN, but it's for each other in that locker room. And I think that speaks to the culture that Coach Huff is building over there as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
I think everybody
Bowling Green
is
matchup?
excited about what Marshall can do, minus that one guy who used to email us all the time saying that we talked about Marshall way too much because this is the state of West Virginia, not the state of Marshall. Yeah, it shows you what we think about that guy. I think the big thing for this team is what Huff has told us every single time we've gone over there, and that's consistency. The first game that we went to, he talked about rat poison.
Yeah.
Because Marshall...
Cough, cough, Nick Saban, cough.
Yeah, because Marshall beat North Carolina Central last year. They put up 50 points against them, but they had a slower start on offense, and so he said that they didn't do well. And when you look at the numbers, yeah, they look pretty good. But so that's kind of the big thing. And so it's a different thing when you have the local media, but then all of a sudden ESPN, Sports Illustrated. He was on Jim Rome talking to him. So it's a little.
He was on CBS Sports like yesterday morning.
Yeah, and so it's fine for Huff because he's used to the media and he knows how to talk to us. He knows how to deal with that. But for the players, you can't slouch at an 0-2 team.
Yeah.
So Marshall has a good stretch where they can start out 5-0.
Yes.
They have Bowling Green.
Yes.
They're at Troy. Then they're home versus Gardner-Webb. And then I think Louisiana comes to town on the Wednesday after that.
Yeah.
Those are winnable games. Marshall's the better team in all three of those games. But you can't think that way and focus on the task at hand. So I think this is a really big week for Marshall. We talk about trap games and looking ahead. They need to look ahead and not look back.
Right.
And so I think that's the big thing for Marshall right now. I think they'll beat Bowling Green pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially if Rasheen Ali comes back. We don't know if he is yet. He's practicing.
Yeah, so I will say Rasheen was spotted at practice, and, the pictures were posted on social media and everything. Hundreds of fans retweeting and very excited about it. Rasheen, the running back for Marshall, posted the most total touchdowns, rushing touchdowns last season in all of the NCAA. Yep. So I did text text Huff to see if he will be playing in the Bowling Green game on Saturday. Huff said, quote, small steps. So, and he said he would let me know if and when that announcement comes.
If he plays, I don't think it'll be a massive workload.
Right.
I think more or less he's going to be back for conference play.
Yes.
Especially at this rate, he'll be back for Troy.
Yeah, which we're all very excited about because, I mean, if they're rushing for 250 plus in a game without him.
At Notre Dame.
Yeah, at Notre Dame, then it's just going to be incredible. I'm very, very excited about that. Just their future and what they're going to do this season. Because, we haven't even hit conference play yet. And, man, how about that Sun Belt, though? Can we talk about the Sun Belt Conference and Sun Belt football for a second? Because what the heck? I don't know if you guys saw over the weekend, but we had a lot of really big wins. Georgia Southern won. App State, obviously, is all over national media right now. College Game Day is going to Boone County, North Carolina to visit with App State, and rightly so. Apparently, they had Texas A&M on their schedule for this weekend and went, maybe we should go to App State.
They're not going there for Troy.
I know.
Georgia Southern went into Lincoln and got Scott Frost fired.
I know, literally. Georgia Southern got Scott Frost fired.
Clay Helton.
Speaking of, Zach asked Spring Valley head coach Brad Dingus if he put his name in the hat for Nebraska. What'd he say, Zach?
He said it's a dumpster fire, which I don't blame him. And not to ramble too much about Nebraska, but they've been stuck way in the past. They look at their championships in the 90s and they're like, well, we want that again. But hey, they're in the Big Ten. That ain't gonna happen anymore. Yeah. And so finally their athletic director came out and said, all right, we need to stop thinking about championships and we just need to find the right coach. Because as soon as you get a coach and say, win us a national championship, that's enormous pressure.
Yes, a lot of pressure.
So Nebraska, man, they need to take a step back.
Realize who they are and what they have.
Who they are at this point.
Right.
Because I read an article that said they're not Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State in the Big Ten. They align more with Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa.
Right.
So right now, they're not even close to the upper tiers.
Right.
You want to compete that way, but you're not at Ohio State, you're not at Michigan right now.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the Big Ten, kind of getting back to Marshall, we did hear from Scott Loeffler, who's the head coach at Bowling Green, in his press conference, and he said, quote, Marshall's probably going to be the toughest team that we play this season. He said it's basically a Big Ten team that's coming in here that we're going to have to go up against. So
they played UCLA week 1.
Yeah. So, and lost handsomely. I think it was 46 to 13
you're
or something.
Chip Kelly guy, right?
Oh gosh, no. Oh man, that's a whole other story for another time. But so I'm really excited for Marshall. I think they go to Bowling Green and come out with the win. It's just, again, a matter of them just staying focused and not getting too, in their own heads or overhype or or worst case scenario, think this is an easy win, because that's how you trap game.
I don't think they will.
Yeah, I don't think. Huff has really ingrained in their heads, the appropriate way to approach everything, and consistency is key and all of that.
Look how bad they beat Norfolk State.
Right. And he kept it going. And how fun was that at the end of the game, by the way? They were just rotating QBs. It was like musical chairs out there. It was so fun.
And Cole Pennington got his first snap, too.
Yeah, that was really cool. History in the making. Okay, enough of Marshall. Talk WVU a little bit. I know everybody's pissed. WVU lost to Kansas at home. Zach called it. Not really, but he did say don't overlook Kansas.
Yeah, I said don't overlook them because they can score some points, and they really scored some points.
Yeah, they definitely scored some points. Matter of fact, so much so that head coach Neil Brown said this week in his press conference that he is completely changing up the defensive personnel. He said the young guys have worked really hard in the offseason and they deserve a shot. He mentioned Moo and, so I think, and Sean Martin, I think they're going to end up, coming out, and I think Sean Martin might even start in that secondary, and then and they're playing Towson at home. So again, another game that you can't really overlook. Obviously Mountaineers fans are expecting a win this weekend. They should, but
if
who knows?
Towson wins this one, Neil Brown is gone. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean,
he will not survive that game if he loses it.
Yeah.
Towson, they're undefeated. They haven't really played that many good teams just yet. They're 2-0. Coming from experience as a Maryland guy, Towson has been a pretty good football program in the past decade or so, but they don't have the talent to stick with
WVU. It's not how Kansas has some guys that can play, because I mean that's still a big. No matter what people say about Kansas, it's still a Big 12 team.
Yes.
And even that's still a Power 5 team, and you can't write off those teams.
Right.
So, yeah, that's an upset. But at the same point, you're still going up against a kid that's three-star athlete, two-star athlete, stuff like that. So Towson, it's different. I'm not going to say there's no way WVU loses. They could. You never know.
Yeah, it's WVU after all.
But they've well.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
They can't lose this game.
Yeah, they just can't. I mean, at the end of the and I'm debating. I might go up to that game and enjoy it as a fan, because Marshall's on the road, and we do have someone out in Bowling Green that will be getting us highlights and post game. So we will have highlights and post game from the Marshall Bowling Green game for you guys on Saturday night. But yeah, I'm thinking about going up to that game. I just don't know what the vibe is in Morgantown right now. I feel like everybody's just kind of peeved.
I don't think it's very good.
I know. Everybody's just upset right now. And like, it doesn't help that Marshall is doing really, really well, because all these WVU fans are like, it makes them even more mad, because like, you know, there's all that going on. So, which I'm sorry, but I got a platform right here. I'm going to say it. I don't understand that. I do not understand Mountaineers fans that hate on Marshall. I don't get it.
I don't get
Everybody's in the same state. The state is too small for people to have like so much hate towards something else in the state. I don't get it.
I mean, they'll play each other every now and again in some stuff. Like they'll play each other in soccer.
And they're vicious. Fans are vicious towards each other when they do play each other. It's crazy. I'm like, we're all West Virginians, are we not?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe one day I'll understand it, but right now I do not. But yeah, I mean, that pretty much like wraps up, I think, everything that we have going on. Of course, always tune in tomorrow night, Friday night, Sports Zone, about 11:10. We'll have all of these highlights. I think we have like 9 games that we're actually going to be at tomorrow.
We
so
should have a really good slate.
yeah, and obviously we'll have all your highlights and scores on the website afterwards, and then Zach will have all of your highlights from the Bowling Green game and the post-game stuff on Saturday. And yeah, we got to watch some Thursday night football now.
Yeah. Come on.
It's about that time. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Of course, every Thursday right here from 7 to 8, we'll be live on Facebook, and we'll have it on YouTube and on Apple and Spotify podcasts by Friday morning. So listen to it on your drive into work. And thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.